Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you another of my classic James Bond reviews, and today I'm taking a look at the 1979 film Moonraker. The film is directed by Lewis Gilbert and stars Roger Moore as James Bond, Louise Childs as the Bond girl Holly Goodhead, Michael Lonsdale as Drax, Richard Kiel as Jaws, and Bernard Lee as M. This time round, Bond is sent to investigate the disappearance of a space shuttle, and he heads to Drax Industries, and the head of that industry, Hugo Drax, played by Michael Lonsdale, and discovers a plot by Drax to essentially wipe out humanity and for him to repopulate the Earth with his perfect human species. Right. What are my thoughts on Moonraker? Again, this is a bit of a personal favourite of mine. Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker were my two favourite Bond films growing up, of Roger Moore's certainly. I just thought it was really cool, this one. Now, originally, this was going to be For Your Eyes Only. At the end of Spy Who Loved Me, I think it said, "We will see you next time on For Your Eyes Only." But after the huge success of Star Wars, that everybody wanted to get into the sci-fi craze. Everybody. And that included James Bond. So they decided to do Moonraker first. Now, this was a huge success. However, it also had a huge budget, the biggest budget ever for a James Bond film. I think it was 33 million. And for a James Bond film, that's astronomical. It even had bigger budgets than films like, Star Trek The Motion Picture that were like, special effects masterpieces. So they really went all out here with this film to kind of, give us a sci-fi spectacular. And they did succeed on many levels, because the film has got some very, very top-notch special effects for like space scenes. A lot of people kind of see a lot of flaws in this one, and I do kind of get it. It does drag in parts a little bit. It's a very familiar plot line. In fact, it's basically the same plot line as the last film, apart from, in the last one it was underwater. This time it's outer space. He's trying to build the perfect human race in outer space, kill humanity, and then repopulate the Earth after he's perfect humans have, breeded on this space station. So he's a complete and utter lunatic, obviously, Drax. And I quite like him as a bad guy. And we also have Jaws returning. I mean, he was so popular, apparently, after the Spy Who Loved Me. I think they got a lot of letters saying, "Please, can you bring Jaws back?" So they certainly obliged. And it was nice to see Jaws in this film. He does feel a little bit scaled back a little bit in this, and obviously he actually turns out to be a bit of an ally for Roger Moore and James Bond by the end of the film, because he finds love and all that, shabazz that we get. But I've always had a soft spot for this one. I think it's a pretty fun James Bond film, with a lot of gloss applied to it. It feels very, very polished. It feels like, the budget is up there on screen. And by this point, Roger Moore absolutely knows how to play James Bond. He nailed it last time out, and he just taps into that once again. Delivers a really, really cool and performance. There's some standout Bond moments here. The bit where, he's going... is it pheasant hunting with Drax? And he fires the gun, and Drax says, "You missed," and he goes, "Did I?" And then the assassin falls out of the tree. Very cool. I always enjoyed, especially as a kid, that sequence where he goes round in that thing, the gravity thing, and that bad guy keeps turning it up. Always enjoyed that sequence. I always thought it was really cool. I always enjoyed the fight sequence between him and the very guy that was turning up the thing. Where he chucks him through like the clock tower. So there is some good stuff going on in this film. And and the conclusion of the film is full on action. You know, the space stuff. I mean, it literally puts every bit of budget it can on the screen. You've got the you know, the lasers going off. I mean, you've got so much going on in this film in regards to action. When it gives you the action, it properly nails it. You know, you've got the speedboat chase. You've got gadgets. You know, he's got the thing on his wrist that fires the darts out. That is, you know, is pretty cool. And you've got the most blatantly named Bond girl of all time, Miss Goodhead. How they got away with it, I just don't know. How anybody could say that with a straight face while they were filming, again, I don't know. How there must have been a lot of outtakes. There really has to have been a lot of outtakes. And we also get the final performance by Bernard Lee as M, who has been in, is it 11 Bond films? I didn't quite realise just how many Bond films he'd been in, but he was a staple of the Bond films as M for many, many years. You know, he's been that thread all the way through it, right up to now. So, yeah, I think Bernard Lee deserves a lot of praise for his time as M in the James Bond films. You know, he's kept that consistency going. So it was a huge success, as I mentioned. I think it was the highest grossing Bond film right up until GoldenEye. Correct me if I'm wrong there. But also at the same time, like I say, it was the most expensive Bond film ever made. So when you kind of balance it all out, sort of thing, you know, it was a huge, huge success. But I think they realised that they couldn't continue to kind of pump in that kind of budget into a James Bond film, which is why they decided to scale it back in the upcoming Roger Moore films, for Your Eyes Only and beyond. They kind of scaled it back a little bit and tried to get back to the more familiar, like, you know, capers for James Bond and ground him a little bit more. So yeah, I think this is a fun outing for Bond. Certainly, there's so much to enjoy here. Yes, as I've mentioned, there are certainly flaws here, here and there. As memorable as her name is, Miss Goodhead, she's a fairly tame Bond girl, I suppose. Jaws this time round doesn't feel nearly as effective. I do enjoy the sequence on top of the cable cars. That's always been a personal favourite of mine, and that look on his face when it's going crashing into the thing. I think they kind of turn him a little bit more into a comedic character this time round, Jaws. But it was, I think, a nice way to conclude his character as well, in regards to him kind of finding love and turning out to be a bit of an ally for Bond. I think it was probably the right thing to do to turn him into a good guy sort of thing and a nice ally for Bond. So yeah, I've always had a soft spot for this one. That's why I've given it the 8 out of 10. It does stand up well. I think the effects are very, very good. And like I say, it's a Bond film that was one I always enjoyed growing up, and I really did enjoy revisiting it for this review. So yeah, thanks very much for watching, guys. So let me know your thoughts are, or what your thoughts are on this James Bond film, and then I will continue my reviews probably in the new year with the next one on the list, which is, I believe, For Your Eyes Only. So thanks very much for checking out this review.